Good morning. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a telephone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Committee members today are Laura Alderson, Danny Bellissimo, Stan Kumorik, and Don Taylor. I'm Michael Clark, and I'm the panel chair. We also ask that you mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Registered participants will be participating by audio only. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustments of the City of Toronto is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wishes to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB, in the event of an appeal, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. In making your submissions, when an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with a presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please start off by clearly stating your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application of being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is both accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their presentation. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. That will then mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into the committee for a decision. Some business matters to take care of. I believe we have 2 sets of minutes to approve.
Mr. Chair, we only have June 24th.
Okay. So the June 24th, we don't have, I guess, the July 13th ready yet for confirmation. So the June 24th, going to have a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. Thank you, Mr. Kumarik. All in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Mr. Carvalina, do we have any files to be closed?
None at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any conflicts of interest, panel or staff to declare on the matters on the 9:30 agenda? None to declare? Thank you. Okay. In that case, I guess we can start with the first application. Okay, the first application is number 199 15th Street. And this is an application to construct a new building. And there are two variances. We have landscape plan, we have transportation requesting 2 conditions of approval. And the applicant on this application, we only have 1 speaker registered, being the agent, Kevin Lowe.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Lowe?
First, my name is Calvin Lowe, and I'm from KCCL Architect and representing the owner of 199 30th Street. So we are here to ask for a zoning relief of side yard setback from 3 meters to 0.5 meters on the south side of the property, and also reducing the driveway width from 6 meters to 3.3 meters. And we believe that we are asking for is minor in nature and meeting the general intent of the purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, Mr. Lowe, are you okay with the requested conditions of approval by transportation?
I do not know what is the request. I didn't see it on the
Okay,
website.
on the website, there's a memo July 23rd from the Transportation Division. And they're asking, as a condition of approval, they're okay with it, is recommending the committee approve minor variance, subject to the applicant complying
Okay.
with the following conditions to the satisfaction of transportation. 1, revise the site plan drawing and landscape site plan to show the installation of a convex traffic mirror in the manner that is consistent with the conceptual site plan drawings. And number 2, revise all drawings to illustrate and label the installation of on-site warning signs at the extremities of the 3.3 wide driveway, which
Yes, I think that's fine.
outbound motorists. Okay, you're okay with those?
I'm okay with those, yes.
Okay. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Lowe? And if no questions, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Just
Danny-
another comment. I just wanted to ask if the applicant was okay with urban forestry conditions number 2 and 3, I believe.
Yes, I look at it and I think it's okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellismo is ready to make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to move approval of the variances and the conditions set up by forestry and transportation.
Okay, thank you. I have a
And the
second.
variances are minor in nature.
Thank you.
Happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? You have unanimous approval, Mr. Lowe. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, item number 2 is 24 Treeview Drive. And this is an application for to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and there are 9 variances. We have an arborist report and a planning report recommending refusal of the application. Registered as speaker on this application is, I guess we have the agent and the owner, but we'll only hear from one of them, as well as we have a neighbor at 116 Ashridge Court registered to speak. So is it Mr. Nasser is going to be speaking, the agent?
Yes,
Okay, good morning.
yes. Good morning. Hello,
Yes, good morning.
good morning. You
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So we have your application for a new detached dwelling to be constructed. You have 9 variances, and the planning department in the report dated June 20th is recommending refusal of the application. You're aware of that, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so would you like to
Sorry?
tell the committee why we should approve the application and not follow the recommendation from community planning? You have 5 minutes.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Sorry?
I said you have 5 minutes to presentation to let us know why we should approve this application.
Yes. We try to build a new construction, what we say, a new face to this area. This is small area limitation by law zoning there. It won't give us a freedom to do that. Also, the basement, we want to use the basement on the grade because the grading of the area is going back. So we cannot lower the basement. We want to put the garage in the basement, and we cannot lower the basement down because there's a limitation of making the making the garage down backward to the so we forced to make the basement on the grade from the TREEVIEW street, and that will also has a limitation with the height of the building, because the height what anticipate is about 9.15 meter, and now the limitation is 8.4 something. So actually, that's what if we follow all the limitation there, we will keep the same old fashion of the houses that is in that area, and we need to have this is a new thing.
Okay, sir.
If you can also,
Mhm.
yeah, if you can also give the time to the owner, Mr. Hussein, he wants to explain his view.
No, he can't. He can't.
the-
You only have one speaker, either the agent or the applicant, so he has to communicate that through you, sir. So you're at quite a high FSI at 0.92, where 0.4 is permitted. Is that because the basement is counting in the calculation? And also,
Yes,
does that
this is
affect the height. Is that
yeah.
the case? Okay.
Yeah, this
So
is the
you would
thing, yeah.
disagree
And
then?
also with
Yeah.
the coverage area, the total coverage area, they consider the basement now is a floor, so that increase the total of the coverage area. Other things such as main pedestrian number 5, 1.2. It's in the drawing is about 4 more about 8 feet. We can reduce this number 5 to 1.2 to do some alteration to the drawings. And the pedestrian.
Okay, so
we
you're
can
saying
keep
that
it
you can
on
eliminate,
1.2
just
meters.
want to clarify, you're saying you could eliminate paragraph number 5, the pedestrian entrance height?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I think in the planning report, they review that. They say that they communicated their concerns to you or your client. And although some revisions to the pedestrian entrance height and exterior wall heights were informally proposed to planning staff, it says the applicant did not agree to address the above concerns regarding the increased floor space index and perceived 3-story facade, building height, and a wane wall height. Okay, and advise that they're not making further changes. So that's where we are. Please wrap up on your presentation, and then we'll see if committee members have any questions for you, and then we'll also hear from the neighbor. And you'll have a chance to respond to the neighbor's concerns. So is there anything
Okay.
you'd like to add? Mr. Nasser, is that all you'd like to say at this point?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, committee members, do you have anyone have any questions at this point for Mr. Nasser? Okay, so let's hear from the neighbor, Huda Al-Dawadi, 116 Ash Ridge.
Yes. About the height of the building.
Sir,
now we reduce-
sorry. Can you start off, ma'am, by stating your name and address formally for the record?
Yes, I am Huda Dawoodi, architect technician working with engineer Nabil.
Hold on. Are you here on behalf of the applicant, or are you a neighbor with concerns?
With engineer Nabil, working with engineer Nabil.
Okay. I don't understand. You live at 116 Ash Ridge, and is that in the location of the property?
Yes. No, not in the location of the property. I am working with engineer Nabil.
You're working with the agent?
Yes.
Yeah, apparently you didn't declare that the applicant is only allowed one person to speak. We've already heard from the agent. So if you're here to support as a consultant or professional on behalf of the agent, we can't hear from you. I thought you were perhaps a neighbor with concerns.
No, I am not in with the neighbor, but I am working with engineer Nabil. I am speaking about the heights. I want to.
No, sorry, all submissions have to be made through Mr. Nasser. We only have one speaker.
Okay.
You know, this is not an
Thank
OMB or a, we have a limited amount of people speaking on the application. So we have one designated speaker who is the authorized agent. So any submissions should be put in through the agent. All
Okay,
three
thank
of you
you.
can speak. Okay. Okay, given I've said that, Mr. Nasser, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I don't know if you assume that your engineering consultant was going to be allowed to speak, which is not the case. So is there anything, I'll give you another minute to, if you'd like to add anything else.
Yes, we saw many houses, new construction now is constructed in the way that we are doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in this area exactly, but in the other areas, there's new many houses coming in this way that we are doing now. That the basement is almost with the grade, and the garage will be in the basement. Because if we lower the basement and put the garage in the ground floor, then we will lose a lot of the area of the building of the house. Now, many houses there in Toronto, they are going to the same concept that we are doing. And I think they got the approval for that. This is my...
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, committee members, so any last minute questions for the applicant? We don't have any neighbor in opposition here. Mr. Kamarik.
Okay, question for the applicant through you, Mr. Chair. What would your GFI numbers be if the basement were not included?
I think it will be, if not included, it will be about 60% GFI number.
So you haven't made that calculation?
Yes, yeah, because it won't exceed, because they consider it as 3 floors. So once you take the basement from that would, so 0.92 times the area, it will be a 0.6, something like this.
Okay, well, see, something like this doesn't work for me. I'd like to know what it would actually be. I believe planning's main concern is that your GFI numbers are way out of whack. And if I were to look at those numbers alone, I would have to agree that it should be a refusal. But if you could have made a argument that if you exclude the basement, if the basement should be excluded, I think you're in a completely different situation.
Yeah, but I think that what is the gross floor areas, once you take that basement, you are taking 30%, almost third of that gross area from what is said on.
I understand, and that should have been your main argument, which you did not present. I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Kamarik. Actually, Mr. Nasser, my question is, this is a new build. It's not a series of additions. It's a new build. So why can't you put the basement further into the ground and then it won't count? Like we know sometimes people do additions in existing house, the basement's out of the ground, but you're doing a new construction. I don't know if you're doing it on the existing foundation or what the story is, but why don't you just go down deeper? And then you avoid the height and you avoid the FSI problem. Anyway, that's not before
because they don't. Sorry, but that because they don't allow. We want to put the garage in the basement, so we want to step down with the garage, and I think it's not allowed.
Right, because you're not allowed below grade garages. Yeah, you're not allowed reverse slope garages.
Yes, that's okay. Well, if we put the two car garage on the ground floor, then the ground floor almost will be ruined, will gone. Nothing will left.
Yeah, like every other new build in the city, like every other new build, you have a choice. You can't do both. Obviously, the garage takes up a lot of the first floor space, and it's not underground. Okay, so anyway, we are where we are. Committee members, is someone ready to make a motion on this application? Mr. Kamarik.
I'm not sure if you guys are gonna like me for this, but I think the applicant is kind of, given what's been put forward, the way it's been presented, I think a refusal is where we need to go. However, I'm feeling a little bit of compassion for the applicant, because I think they could have made a reasonable argument for this application. And I don't know if you'll entertain this, Mr. Chair, but I would actually suggest that the application be deferred so that they could process this properly with planning and come back with a proper presentation.
At this point, I don't think a deferral is, the applicant has chosen to proceed when he received that letter of refusal of the recommendation from community planning. I don't know if be any other members, everyone's free to make whatever motion you want, but after we've spent 15 minutes discussing it, I don't know. And he's advised,
Understood.
the planning report actually says he refused him. He said he wanted to proceed and he didn't want to make changes.
Understood.
So
I-
you can make a motion if you wish.
I'm prepared to make a motion for refusal. It's not just the FSI concerns, it is the stairway to heaven that is being built. That is a problem, and the applicant has declined to make any changes to the application after consulting with planning, and so I would support community planning in this and make a motion for refusal.
Okay, so
I don't believe it meets the 4 tests.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to that, so Mr. Comerica, are you prepared to retract your suggestion about deferral, or we should deal with that first otherwise?
I'll take it back. I think it's going to fail anyway.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion for refusal from Ms. Alderson. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Taylor?
Second,
Danny
Mr. Chair.
Bellissimo.
Mr. Taylor beat you to it, Danny. Any, want to say something, Don?
No, I would just sort of echo Member Alderson's comments. I find the house to be not in keeping with the general nature and the immediate context. It's too tall, it's too big. Just doesn't meet the test, so I'm not supportive.
Thank you. Also, actually, the applicant himself said there's houses like this, but not in the immediate area. So he even admitted that. Okay, all in favor of the motion to refuse the application? Unanimous refusal. Thank you, Mr. Nasser, and your consultants and the owner on the line, but regrettably, the application has been refused. Okay, so we're going to move on to application number 3, and it is 91 Dunedin Drive. It's an application to construct a new rear deck. A previous Committee of Adjustment application, A165-14EYK, refused variances for lot coverage, gross floor area, side and front yard setbacks, platform height, and parking, platform area height and parking. And then that was in 2014. Then in 2019, another Committee of Adjustment application approved variances for floor space index, side yard setbacks, and height. And now the applicant is coming back to add a rear deck, and he has one variance that the proposed deck is set out in the application. And we have those applications. We have 6 or 7 letters of opposition. There seems to be concerns about issues of interpretation, and according to the neighbors. So we have registered to speak as agent Sean Tusi. We have another agent, Gareth Owen. I don't know if he's an agent for someone else, one of the neighbors. And we have the neighbor at 89 Dunedin, right next door. So let's hear first from Mr. Tusi, the agent.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sean Tusi. I'm the office principal at MEMAR Architects, Inc., presenting the owner today. With your permission, Mr. Chair, if the staff could bring up the survey, the drawings, I'll talk mostly on survey and site plan. And I think, as you also mentioned, there is a misunderstanding, I believe, by the neighbors, which I totally understand. And there are 2 ways that you could read this, and one could be a significant depth for the deck, and then the other one is what we are intending, which is literally replacing the existing deck. So if you look at the survey, the first page on the top shows the house, and as you see, there is a existing deck at the back. If we can zoom in possibly to the deck. So this is existing wood deck. And the client, the first refusal that you mentioned on the committee was done by another architect for a new house. Then the ownership changed. The owner wanted to keep the house, so we suggested to do a renovation, which we took that application as well to the committee and received approval. The idea for that proposal, if now we can go to the second page to see the site plan, was to do an addition to the back, which was approved. So this is what has been approved, what you're looking at right now, which was the proposed two-story addition at the back. And then the idea was to keep the existing deck. So however, during construction, what happened is the structure of the existing deck was deemed not good and not stable, and the structural engineer recommended for the safety of workers to remove the deck. So their understanding was they can remove the deck and sort of rebuild it with the same material, the exact same size, the exact same location, the exact same condition in terms of massing and sizing and setbacks. But as we all know, once you demolish something, as far as City of Toronto concerns, that thing never existed. So that triggered what we have today coming back in front of you. So I think this is a very good sample of a technical proposal in front of members. We are going to keep. The idea is that we're rebuilding exactly same deck that was already there. Yeah. No size, nothing will change, and as a result, we think it is really a technical matter. It definitely meets the 4 tests, and in terms of neighbor concerns, we are absolutely fine. Should the committee decide to approve the application, they will tie the decision to this site plan just to make sure that the neighbors' concerns, maybe I can speak a little bit to it, which you see there is another, we have 2 rear walls, right? One is the existing old house, and then there's one, the new house. Neighbors' concern is that what if we get this 5.7 approval and then we go and extend that 5.7 from the other one, the one that is further back, which that is not possible, because then our variance would be basically 12 meter. It wouldn't be 5.7 meter, because the way the zoning measures it, it measures from the furthest back wall. So if we want to have a deck that is 5 meter from the second one, then our variance wouldn't be 5.6. It would be basically almost 12 meters. So by the nature of the variance you have in front of you, it is already tied for the deck to be the way it is. So even if you do not tie it to the drawings, we still have to build what you see. We cannot get away, and there is no, there shouldn't be any concerns with the neighbors. But just to make sure they feel good and everything is order, and I mean, we're absolutely fine should the committee decide to approve, tie to the drawing. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Tusi. I just actually reviewed all the letters, and they all seem to have the same concerns. They're not opposed to the deck per se, but they're just worried about what you just went through. Obviously, that wouldn't happen. That would trigger another variance, so other variances. So, but you're content to you know, and we'll hear from staff and from the neighbors what if it's just tying it to that site plan. That'll obviously be to be constructed as illustrated, would solve that problem. So perhaps we'll hear from the Roths, who were here, one of the people who wrote those letters. And like I said, all 4 of the letters had the same issue. No one is actually opposed to the deck. So who is Gareth Owen, Mr. Tusi? Is that someone you're associate, or is that an agent on behalf of the neighbor?
No, Mr. Chair, I'm the only person talking on behalf of
perhaps Mr. Owen, we'll hear from him, as perhaps he's an agent on behalf of one of the other
Mr.
neighbors.
Chair, Garth is actually not signed in with us. He will not be speaking.
Okay. Okay. We won't find out then. But,
Question,
stay as a mystery.
Okay. So we do have to hear from, again, the neighbors at 89 next door. We have their letter. So we'll hear if, I guess maybe we just have to hear if they're content that it be tied to the plans, so that there's no ambiguity as to where this deck is going to go and what's being approved.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask a question before we go to that.
Of course. Go ahead, sir.
Just wanted to ask the applicant if I understand the size and location is the same. Just the only thing that wasn't addressed is the height. Is the height of the new deck going to be the same as the height of the old deck?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it is going to be. It's going to be literally the replica, because it has to fit the ground floor, and the ground floor the way it's where it's situated, it's a ravine, the back comes down. So the height is gonna be exactly the same as existing.
And I understand that because you could have put stairs going up or down. So I just want to make sure that it is the same.
Yes, it is gonna be the same as the existing, yes.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's why you need the variance at 2.75 meters above the ground.
Yes,
It
Mr.
says
Chair.
maybe no higher than the level of which it gains access. So you're putting it the same place it
Yeah.
was. Great. Any other questions for Mr. Tusi before we go on to hear from the neighbor? Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Roth.
Sorry, Chair. Also, they were signed in with me at the meeting, but I do not have them on the line right now.
Okay. We do have their letter, though, and we know what their concerns are.
Yes.
Okay, so we have no one else going to be weighing in on this. So committee members, any last minute questions, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Yes, sir.
I find that the variances are minor in nature. They're basically replacing an existing condition. And I would agree with the applicant that we tie the approval to the plans. I'm assuming not the site plan, he said the plans. So I'm going to tie him to all the elevations and all the plans that he submitted, not just to the site plan. So that's my motion.
Okay, staff, is that like, I just want to overly complicate, should it, be tied to one particular, Mr. Tusi, perhaps you can assist, what, it's kind of cumbersome if someone's going to have to check that everything is typically be tied to a plan?
Yes, Mr. Chair. My recommendation would be the second page that we mostly focus on, which is the site plan that shows, which addresses the neighbor's concerns as well, because it shows the footprint of the house and the location of the deck. So perhaps tying it to the second page, I believe it was, if you can bring it back up just to make sure. Yes, to this page. I'm not quite sure what's the page number. Maybe the staff can.
So is that A.01?
Yes, through you,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
I'm fine with that. Then I'll tie it to drawing A.01, which is the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconded for Mr. Bellissimo's motion. Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I'll second the motion with hopefully a friendly amendment to include urban forestry condition 2.
Thank you. That's acceptable, Danny?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I forgot.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, I can't see everyone, but I assume the application is, okay, unanimous. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Tusi.
Thank
The
you. You have a
application
good day,
is
member.
unanimously approved. Okay. Next item is number 4, 386 Maple Leaf Drive. And this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances. We have supporting material. Planning has advised they have no concerns, and there are 3 letters of support from 347, 384, and 377 Maple Leaf Drive. Registered to speak is Glenn Rubinoff, the agent. No other speakers. Good morning, Mr. Rubinoff.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's not, I think that it's a fairly straightforward application. One of the variances identified, the third variance, is related to the old bylaw, which is taken from the crown of the road. There's a large grade differential, which is why we have that variance, why it appears to be large.
There is no variance under the new bylaw, the new citywide 569 2013.
The variance 2 is for the overall, but it's under a foot. The differential is what we're asking.
Okay, but that doesn't have to show up as a variance. Oh, it's the height.
Right.
Height and sorry, not variance number 2 is also
For the height,
right, right. Yeah, so you can see it's very minor. You're like at 0.25.
Yes, that's right.
Seems very minor. I don't believe we need a presentation. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Rubinoff, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion? And can you check if I don't have the urban forestry conditions?
Okay.
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Kamerick, did you have a question, or you're going to weigh in with a motion as
No,
well?
I was going to put a motion forward, but I'll let Danny go.
Okay.
So I find that the variances are minor in nature and move for approval of the variances and the conditions set up by forestry.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that, Mr. Kamerick? Thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. I think.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Laura, you're okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rubinoff. Okay, our next application is item number 5, 33 Saybrook. And this is an application for another detached dwelling with a attached garage. We have how many variances we have here? Okay, there are 8 variances. We have actually, this is a deferral request. That's why I didn't make any notes. We have a deferral request on this application. The agent is Tanya Pejovic, so perhaps we can hear from the agent. And that's, I understand, to obtain zoning notice and for revised plans and have those new plans examined. Ms. Pejovic?
Good morning. Yes, hello. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tanya Pejovic, and I'm the agent for the owner of the property at 33 Saybrook Avenue. We wanted to ask you if you could accept our request for a deferral of a hearing for our proposal. After receiving the initial comments from the planner regarding our proposal, we agreed to comply with the planner's request, and we produced a revision of the plans. We also asked the zoning examiner for a review and issuance of the updated zoning notice. Since the zoning review is still not completed, we would like to ask for a deferral of our file so that we can have the updated documents for the next available hearing.
Okay, we'll have to hear from staff as to when they can get you on the next available agenda. But so we have a deferral request. Committee members, any questions? And perhaps we can hear from staff about the rescheduling of I assume as a normal course, when you're ready to go, Ms. Pejovic, you contact staff and they'll put you on the next available agenda. We can't put you on a specific agenda at this point because it hasn't been done in any event.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, committee members, any questions or a motion to defer?
Anybody else would like to make a motion for deferment?
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Ms. Alderson, thank you. And for the purpose mentioned by the applicant.
Next available hearing date, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pejovic. We'll see you next time or another time. Okay, item number 6 is 19 Simpson Avenue. It's again to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage and a rear deck. There are 8 variances. We have a arborist report, planning report that recommends conditions of approval, 2 letters of support, and we have forestry comments as well. Registered to speak is Sia Zanjani, the agent on this application. No other people registered to speak. Is Sia Zanjani? Hello? They're on the line or? 19 Simpson Avenue. Do we have the agent on the
Hello,
line?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear now.
Oh,
Good morning.
okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sia Zanjani, and I'm the architect and the agent on behalf of the owner of 19 Simpson. I do like to address the forestry comments. And before I start with that, if I can ask the staff to display drawing SK1, that would be the first page from the presentation material on the screen. So as you mentioned, forestry has provided comments on this application, and in the report it states that we're proposing to remove the large city-owned tree at the front of the property, which is false. We're not asking to remove this tree, so I just wanted to make that clear. And in fact, from the beginning of the project, we've made every effort to save this tree. The owner has retained a certified arborist to work with forestry, and as you've probably seen in the arborist report, we've gone through a step-by-step procedure in order to minimize any damage. So yes, that would be the first. So the first page of the presentation material that was posted on the website. It would be no, the would committee have the presentation material there? That's not it. We do see it on AIC.
So what document are we looking for? Is it one of your plans that you submitted?
It's our presentation in PDF format that was uploaded to AIC, and we do see it there. So
it's your elevation plans then? Yeah. Which page?
No, it's a colored site plan, drawing sketch SK1, and it's somewhat important to
A6. Hold on, what do we got? A8. All your plans related A1 to 10. I don't see any SKs.
Okay, yeah, that's can we refer to A0 site plan? A1 site plan then. We prepared a colored sketch to make it easier to understand, but I guess we have to resort to A1 site plan instead.
Yeah, page A1. The first page of his 10-page plans.
So yeah, so if we can bring that up. Meanwhile, I can explain that the majority of the driveway that's being proposed is using about probably 95% of the proposed driveway is using the same footprint as the existing. In fact, we've actually made it slightly narrower to provide a larger setback to the tree. And also the existing foundation, the existing footprint of the existing house takes up, it kind of encompasses most of the proposed porch and the driveway. So in fact, the only area that we're adding is a small patch of permeable walkway that we obviously need. And the steps. So that's the only area that, net area that's being added. So I just wanted to emphasize those two items, that the one that the tree is being, it's not being removed, but given the location, technically speaking, we would have to apply for an injury permit, but every effort is going to be made to exactly that's the correct drawing. Thank you so much. So the shaded area in blue is the existing driveway, and the dotted yellow line shows the extent of the proposed, just for comparison. The area shaded in yellow is the walkway that's being added that doesn't exist, and the orange area is the steps. The cross-hatched section at the bottom in blue, that's the existing house. So just wanted to bring that up. The rest of the variances are fairly straightforward. I don't want to go through a full presentation, but if committee members have any questions, I would be glad to address. When it comes to the side yard setback, I want to emphasize that, as you can see on the photograph you have on this screen, the separation between 19 Simpson and 21 is currently they're so close that the roofs are fit. Actually make an improvement. In terms of the height of the front wall, I want to emphasize that we do in fact have a sloped roof that on the sides of the building have a much lower wall height, but given the style we wanted to achieve and the geometry at the front, we have a slightly higher front wall height. So if you scroll down, you can see the side
Yeah, Mr. Sanjani, if you could please wrap up. You're at the over the 5 minute mark.
That's all actually, and I just wanted to remind and mention that we have 2 letters of support from the 2 neighbors from on the left and right side, number 17 and 21. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and those color coded ones that we found are very helpful. Also, you're okay with the suggested condition from community planning that it be built constructed as illustrated on the architectural plans regarding the height of the sloped roof design. You're okay with that condition in the event of a... You're okay?
That's absolutely fine, yes.
Thank you. Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Sanjani, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? Mr. Kumarik.
Okay, more of a comment than a question. I'm assuming you're aware that it's a right of way that you're dealing with, and that to your east, I believe it is, and that has to be kept clear during construction. And you're not encroaching onto that in any way.
Yes, we are aware of that, and thanks for the reminder. That's absolutely fine, yes.
Okay, based on all of that, I'd be prepared to make a motion. I believe the application meets the 4 tests as minor in nature. I would make that recommendation for approval subject to forestry condition 1, the preservation of the city tree, which is located in front of the house, and also to tie it to the architectural plans dated June 29th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Kumarik, for that motion. Do we have a second for that? Ms. Alderson? Thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Zanjani. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thanks. You too.
Okay, item number 7 is 4 MILVAN Drive, and this is an application to construct a new commercial building. We have 4 variances on this application. There's FSI and 3 parking loading related ones, and we have on this application cover letter, parking and loading study, 2 previous decisions of committee, support, and the planning a planning condition. Oh, actually, it's a report for information. And they provided a notice of approval conditions been issued in relation to the site plan control application. That's what they state in the planning reports. And we have as speakers on this application, Ned Alam is the agent. Someone has something?
Yes. Ned Alam, Array International Architects.
Yes.
I'm acting on behalf of the agent of YN Group, who will be occupying the building. Actually, is the owner and occupant.
Okay.
Yeah, the 4 variances were worked on very closely with the planning department for the FSI and for the loading space location and loading space size and parking as well. It's also been discussed closely with transportation, and the traffic consultant that provided it all was in support of what we provided. Basically, the old zoning bylaw is what really was kind of restricting the amount of parking, and but in considering the size of the lot and the number of occupants and so on, it was felt that it is well within the 2013 zoning bylaw, and that's why the transportation was supporting the project. There was a slight discrepancy between what we submitted initially before the traffic consultant's participation, which was involved 26 parking spaces, which actually, in reality, with the traffic consultant, he recommended removing 2 of them and provide 1 courier parking space and a loading parking space based on a Type C truck, which is much more appropriate to the use of the building and to the size of the lot. So it was deemed that the loss of the 2 parking spaces was not really a major thing. If you look at the 2013 calculations, zoning bylaw calculations, you will see that there's 16 parking spaces is what's required. And if it's if the new policy area 3 and 4, after the completion of the Metrolinx stop, which is literally it's 50 meters away less, we would need only 10 parking spaces. So in actuality, we're providing 24 parking spaces is more than enough.
Okay, thank you. So it states here, sir, that the planning department in the report for information says they have no objection provided a notice of approval condition statement has been issued in relation to the site plan control application. So do we need that as a condition, or has that already been done?
It's already been done, I believe.
Okay, because yeah, they talk about it's for information, but then they say recommend the following conditions. So that's what made me a little confused. Perhaps staff, Mr. Carvalho, can weigh in at some point. But let's say, first of all, does anyone have any questions for the agent at this point? We're going to hear from the agent for the next door neighbor, and he'll have a chance to respond. Are there any questions at this point?
I have a question.
Yes.
I believe transportation is asking for a condition at this point, which was not in our original materials. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, which is the 26 parking spaces instead of 24. And I believe that he had overlooked actually.
No, fair enough. And I just have a comment that, yes, your parking requirement will be at least once the mass transit route is built, but as we all know, that always gets delayed by years and years. So
right.
I think you probably need the parking you need for now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kamara. Okay, any other questions for the agent, or let's hear from the neighbor next door, their representative. And that is Tameshwar Lilmohan who's the agent for the neighbor at 6 MILVAN. Hello, are you there?
Hello, hi, yes. My name is Tameshwar Lilmohan. I am the owner of the corporation of 4 MILVAN Drive, the neighbor.
Okay.
Our concern is that when you combine the 4 variations, it will result in a significant change in the traffic area very close to Finch Avenue, which is a major area now with the new transit development there. You're having a situation where the floor space is almost 2.5 times the permitted amount. You have a situation where the loading area is not attached, so it's going to take up more space. I'm just summarizing the effect of the combined effect. You also have the parking, which is going to be significantly reduced. The issue here is, just by observation and comments from the neighborhood, this area is a significant area of accidents for trucks, etc., turning into MILVAN Drive. You have a busy coffee shop, Tim Hortons, as a neighbor between 6 MILVAN, between neighboring 6 MILVAN. So our concern is that this is going to create quite a bit of congestion. Also, the entrances to both neighbors 4 and 6 are adjacent to one another. So all of that is a serious recipe for congestion, traffic congestion, and we are very concerned about the accident problem that has been taking place at the junction of MILVAN and Finch. Also, earlier there was a variation application to have the setback of this building moved closer to MILVAN Drive. If that has been granted, we are not aware whether that has been granted. That is going to compound the congestion problem as well. Those are our concerns, and I hope the committee will take them very seriously.
Yes, sir. I don't. First of all, I don't see any side yard setback listed in the 4 variances, and you can see the 4 variances as well here. So there is no side yard. you can note that, you know, the floor space index community planning feels it's appropriate. You are aware, sir, that that is under the old bylaw 7625 or 0.5, whereas under the new employment zoning bylaws explained in the planning report, 1 times is permitted and there's no height maximum. There's no height variance here either, but that is part of the explanation that this is under the variance is under the old bylaw. And I guess they point out that 1 times coverage and they say they're satisfied. Transportation, I guess, has been given an opportunity to weigh in on this. I don't see any. Do we have any comments from transportation? I don't believe we do.
The comments are in the added material.
Oh, correct. That's correct. We have, we got in the supplemental material at the last minute yesterday. Transportation is actually requesting deferral in order for the applicant to justify the parking variances. So perhaps we should hear from the applicant as well on that issue. That was sort of a last minute communication. So does anyone
that's
have
what I
any
was trying to
questions?
refer to earlier.
Sorry, Mr. Kamarick?
Sorry, that's what I was trying to refer to earlier. I should have been more explicit.
Okay. Thank you. So do you have any questions for at this point for the agent or for the owner next door before we go back to Mr. Allen?
I'd like to refer you to the Tedesco Engineering's report, the traffic
Sorry,
consultant.
who's speaking now? We're back to Mr. Allen?
Right.
Okay. No one has any questions then from the other agent or the other owner? Okay, so go ahead, sir, and yeah, please deal with that last minute request by transportation. I guess they want you to justify. I assume you've seen that.
Right. I think that the question is really whether it's 24 parking spaces or 26. And the traffic consultant's report, which is Tedesco Engineering, actually this was forwarded to transportation, but I believe it was just an oversight that they hadn't maybe reviewed the final conclusions of that. They just had our own comments as the architect, but the Tedesco Engineering's report clearly refers to if transportation was accepting the 2013 zoning bylaw, which I believe is it was already, we had their blessings on it before. Then the calculations would be more like 16 parking spaces as a requirement. So 24 is well more than what's required. And if, someday we will have the Metro links, then even less than that is required.
Okay.
10 parking spaces.
Okay, so you want to also continue and respond to the concerns of the neighbor next door?
Yeah, actually, Tim Hortons, by the way, is not accessed from MILVAN at all. It's actually from the Finch side, and there's hardly any congestion. I pass by the area frequently. It's maybe there is trucks that go by time to time, but we have a stop sign at the exit from the property, and really the number of occupants. The net area of the building is just about 10,000 square feet, which is really not that much. It's about actually 12,000 square feet. So it's and it's mostly an owner occupied property, and I know them intimately. The company is very organized, very caring, and if anything, they're the ones that requested to have additional parking space for urgent conditions or for flexibility of use of the property.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to point out, I think I spoke out of turn when I said in the supplemental materials it was a request for deferral. That was on the next application, 39 Milford. So can you please get up on the board, someone? What did the transportation report say? Because I didn't notice it in the supplemental materials.
I can get you a copy of that, but actually, basically, it's. Do you have it there?
Yes. Can you? I can't see it. It's too far away to see at this point. Oh.
Yeah.
It's in the initial package.
Okay. Demonstrate the appropriate design. Okay. Okay, so that is the transportation. I spoke out of turn when I talked about something in the supplemental. That's on the next application. My apologies.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, committee members, I didn't want to confuse anyone. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Allen, for that, and thank you to the neighbor at 6 MILVAN. So now, committee members, does anyone have any last-minute follow-up questions for either of these speakers, or is someone ready to make a motion?
Danny Bellissimo has a question of the applicant. A bit confused about the added material. Did the applicant see the recommendation by transportation that you provide acceptable vehicle tracking diagrams? Are you aware of that?
Yes, yes. And actually, we are going through site plan approval.
Okay.
And actually, tracking diagrams were provided in that. And it will be updated by the report that we got from Tedesco.
Okay, because I noticed that this recommendation from transportation was given out a number of days ago. So you feel that you'll be able to meet those tracking requirements as being acceptable?
Absolutely.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Any further questions? And if not, is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I believe the requested variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to the condition requested by Community Planning and the condition requested by Transportation Services.
Okay, thank you. Second for Mr. Taylor's motion.
Danny Bellissimo.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Allen. And thank you to the neighbor at 6 MILVAN. Okay, and so I think someone must have something on. I'm getting some feedback. Oh, okay, good. So hopefully that's okay. Our next application, that's the one when we got the last minute transportation request for deferral. And this property is 39 MILFORD. Okay. Hold on, this is an application. Okay, yes, this is to maintain the existing parking spaces. There are 8 variances, and we have a planning report recommending refusal of the application. We have a letter from Councilor Nunziata in support of the application, as well as 5 other letters of support. And this is all with respect to maintaining the existing parking spaces. And there is, we have at the last minute a transportation request for deferral in the supplemental materials, so perhaps we can deal with that issue first. We only have one speaker, Anthony Krupe, the agent for the applicant. Mr. Krupe?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Yep. So I see you have, you have the councilor support, you have the a member of the provincial parliament in support of your application, but yet, and community planning is looking for a refusal on this, and transportation is looking for a deferral in order for you to justify this. So please help me. Where are we with this? Are you okay with well, I guess the problem with the deferral here, it's the status quo. So for sure the applicant's interested in deferral as long as possible because the status quo would be there. So just thinking of that, maybe you can just make us make a presentation to start off. I see we don't have any speakers registered opposed, but we do have the negative planning report. We have the letters in support from the politicians and others as well. Including neighbors, so and an occupant of the, I think a lawyer who's in the building. So as well as I should declare a conflict because Spiducci Mercado is in favor, and I'm a fan. Anyway, but it looks like you have support, but you have the planning report. So can you please make a presentation? In light of that, I think we should get a presentation from you, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, with all due respect to Toronto Transportation's deferral request, I mean, there's nothing that we feel that there's nothing that a consultant could tell us for this matter that we don't already know. Regardless of what they come back and tell us, we'd still be in violation of the minimum amount of parking spaces required for the property. So we would like to avoid a deferral if possible and just proceed with our application, our submissions, and hope that this committee can rule in our favor with respect to these minor variances.
Okay, so please continue. And I get, well, committee members, unless someone is, we could perhaps, once we hear what he has to say, he said there's no purpose for a deferral because it is what it is. So we should just first deal with the issue of the deferral request from transportation.
There's nothing to deal with.
Excuse me? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
There's nothing to deal with. We just ignore it.
Okay. Thank you. So no one wants to make a motion.
I concur.
Okay, so no one wants to make a motion to defer. That's fine. I don't want to hear from him for 5 minutes and then say, oh, let's defer it. So please continue, sir, Mr. Krupe.
Okay, so we've organized our submission under 5 separate subjects. So I'll just I'll start with the first one. So our first point is that the minor variances should be granted for parking spaces on the north side of the property due to Section 34(9)(a) of the Planning Act. So the examiner's notice that we received notes that a portion of both the north parking spaces and the east parking spaces encroach onto city property. So today's hearing should only focus on dealing with the parking spaces on the east side, since the parking spaces on the north were being lawfully used as a parking lot prior to the enactment of the zoning bylaw. And such use has also continued to the present day. So in accordance with Section 34(9) of the Planning Act, since the north side of the property was used as a parking lot for several decades prior to the enactment of the bylaw, we feel that the committee should grant a minor variance for all items impacting the north side of the lot. Our second point is the discrepancy as to the size of the parking spaces in relation to the bylaw requirements for parking space dimensions are minor in nature. So the owner first constructed these additional parking spaces on the east side of the property to not only provide the minimum number of parking spaces as per the bylaw, the zoning bylaw, but also to help cater to the needs of the 3 tenants of the building and their customers by helping to promote the growth of these businesses during a time when COVID-19 has drastically and negatively affected many small businesses in the area. The parking spaces were purposely made smaller than the bylaw requirements in order to strike a balance between the amount of soft landscaping that was removed from the property and the need for parking. The construction of the bigger parking spaces would have meant the removal of further soft landscaping and even possibly the 3 trees that are on the eastern boulevard there. And that's an issue that the owner wanted to avoid at all costs. So for this reason, we ask that the chair and the members of this committee grant a minor variance with respect to the parking space dimensions themselves. Our third point that we wanted to make was there is direct access to Milford Avenue via the north side of the property, and creating an access driveway on the east boundary would result in the owner having to remove more soft landscaping, which, as I said, we want to avoid. So when constructing the additional spaces, the owner was attempting to find a balance between the needs of the tenant and the minimum parking requirements, while still preserving as much soft landscaping and trees as possible. Constructing a driveway access to the eastern parking spaces would force the owner to remove more soft landscaping on the eastern boulevard and possibly some trees, which is why direct access to these parking spots is attainable via the north side of the property only. Our fourth point, the proposed use of a fitness center is not on a lot that fronts a major street, and this is the Toronto Transportation was actually in support of this minor variance. The subject property is 240 meters east of Keele Street, and Keele Street is very much in view from the property. And given that gyms in particular have been struggling during this pandemic, we ask that the committee grant this minor variance in order to prevent any unnecessary additional undue hardships for the tenant operating the fitness center specifically. Practically speaking, the objective of the construction of these additional parking spaces is to help in promoting the commercial environment and economic desirability of the area. So forcing the fitness center to relocate despite its close proximity to Keele seems counterproductive. And Toronto Transportation already pointed out that the area is not expected to generate significant levels of traffic during the AM and PM peak hours. Our final point that we like to submit to you is that any lot line abutting a street must have a minimum of 3-meter strip of soft landscaping along the entire length of the lot line. So even though the removal of the soft landscaping was required in order to construct the east parking spaces, we feel that the owner used reasonable efforts to preserve as much of the landscaping as possible. They tried to remove as little grass as possible while also not damaging any of the trees. There is a healthy balance between parking and greenery in the area, and especially in relation to the lack of greenery on the neighboring properties. The general area of Milford and Densley has almost no grass on any of the properties, and all have concrete parking lots that go to the edge of the curb and onto city property. The owner feels that it had found a reasonable balance between greenery and parking while also preserving the trees on the eastern boulevard. So basically, in sum, should the committee deny this minor variance application and order that the owner remove the proposed parking spaces, there would not be enough parking to comply with the bylaws requirement for minimum parking spaces. The discrepancy as to the actual parking space dimensions in relation to the bylaw requirements are very minor in nature and was done with the intent of preserving the soft landscaping. The lack of parking in the area will have a negative effect on the tenants
sir,
of the
can
building.
you try to wrap up?
Alike.
You're over 5 minutes, please.
Yeah, so just looking at this practically, we need to just stand by the struggling businesses in a pandemic world, accommodate them as best as possible so that they can flourish once again. Operationally speaking, these parking spaces have been in use and been deemed safe for and by the tenants at the property as reflected in the letters of support that we've received. And the hope is that the subject property will bring with it a much needed investment to our community.
Thank you. I'm familiar with the area. It's pretty busy around there at lunchtime, at least prior to COVID, and hopefully afterwards. But otherwise, parking is not really seem to be an issue there, and I assume they have arrangements made. What are the hours of operation of the fitness center? I guess it's
that I don't know. I would assume maybe 9 to 9, maybe.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members for Mr. Krupe? And if not, is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Kamarik, I see your hand is up. You have a question.
Would help if I unmuted myself. Okay. A comment and a question. On the submitted materials, I don't see the green space that's been preserved. On Google, I see the original green space. So I'm assuming those 3 trees have been left as indicated. My other comment is with regards to the use of the city boulevard. Has any agreement, encroachment agreement been attempted with the city with regards to using that parking or using the city boulevard for parking?
Not at this time, no.
Because theoretically, that's what in fact should be done if we want to legalize this.
I think, just if I can weigh in, I think knowing the area, there's no green space on the other side as well, because it's being used for parking. There doesn't seem to be an abundance, and it is an industrial area, industrial area, and this will, I think, bring some vibrancy and life, and including the Mercado Sveducci use.
Can I just add too? Can I just add as well that this is a newly established BIA? So, they do want to work towards beautification, and I think removing this green space would be not a good idea.
Just a footnote comment to your comment, Mr. Chair. If you look at the corner of Milford and Densley Avenue, they have also preserved a little bit of green space and some trees there. And that's just sort of kitty corner to the subject property.
There's still a considerable amount of grass, and like I said, the 3 trees haven't been removed from the eastern bound boulevard there. So that was our main objective. How do we get more parking while not disrupting any of the soft landscaping, which is, I guess, the general intent of the official plan.
Understood. Just commenting that it would have been helpful for us to see that.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr.
Danny Bellissimo, I'm a bit confused because I do see on the site plan what they do show the 3 trees and the remaining landscaping, and I'm ready to make a motion. I find that the proposal overall is a healthy, balanced design, like the applicant has said. It is preserving the soft landscaping and the 3 trees. So, I mean, there's a balance required here, the need for parking and the need for establishing a business that needs a minimum amount of parking. So I'm moving for approval, finding the variances are minor in nature.
Okay, thank you for that motion, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that. I see
You
Ms.
had me
Alderson.
at small business and BIA, so I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? And Mr. Komarek, is your hand up?
Well,
Okay.
I wanted to second that with a friendly amendment, and I'm not sure, and I really don't have an answer to my question. Do we need to indicate that?
Well, I think it's
Boulevard
we're in the middle of a motion, so let's
Okay, that's fine. Let it go.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Alderson. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Krupe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Okay. Our next application is 47 Beckett Avenue. It's an application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a two-story west side addition, a new covered front porch, a new covered rear deck. There's only one variance. The side yards required is 1.8, and on one side we have 1.24, and the other side 1.25, so it's pretty equal. And we have nothing whatsoever on file in the normal materials. We do have support in the supplemental materials, and I'm not sure if there's an urban forestry condition or not. The speaker on this is Khalid Ibrahim, and he's the agent for the applicant. Mr. Ibrahim?
Good morning. My name is Khalid Ibrahim from IDIM Architects. I'm the architect and the agent for 47 Beckett Avenue. And I don't know if as you said, the application is very simple and minor in nature. I don't know if you want me to present it or
No,
I can ask
I don't
any
think that's
questions so that I can answer any questions.
Yep, let's just see if committee members have any questions for you.
I have one question.
Yes.
Is the addition the same footprint as the original home?
Right.
So there's no change to the existing footprint of the home?
No.
No.
Just except the two-story addition behind the garage. So actually we are squaring up the building. So we are following the
Understood.
same line. Yes.
Understood, but the main lines are not changing?
No.
No. So
yes.
On that basis, unless anyone has any other questions, I would like to move approval.
Thank you, Mr.
Finding that
Yeah, variance.
the variance is minor and meets the 4 tests. And I would just like to make that subject to forestry condition number 2.
Okay, there is a forestry condition. Thank you. Yeah, it's seconded for that motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
day.
You too.
Okay, our next application is item number 10, 69 EDENBRIDGE. And this is an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and there are 7 variances. We have an arborist report. Planning was requesting that we either defer or refuse, but on supplemental materials, we have revised plans and a revised notice, and planning is advised they have no further concerns, and there are your urban forestry comments as well. So looks like one of those situations where in between the application date and the hearing date, changes have been made and planning is now on site. We have one speaker, Marin Zabzumi.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzumi at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay. Welcome, sir. So planning
Thank
is
you.
now on site. Can you just give us you made changes, obviously, or in our supplemental materials, which we all received yesterday?
Correct. So we're proposing a 2-story dwelling and a rear detached cabana and pool. We've looked at the area extensively, and we were aiming to design a home that fits the area in the neighborhood, and we had a lot of discussions with planning initially. They were essentially satisfied with most things. They just asked if we can make some adjustments to the FSI. There wasn't a lot of room to reduce because some of the rooms were tight, even though it's a larger lot. So we're working with planning, seeing where we can cut, made some changes based on their recommendations, sent that in, and now they sent an email that they're in support. So the revisions on the items are item number 1 on lot coverage. We reduced from 308.35
Yes, sir, we
meters
can see it up
squared.
on the screen. We have it up. I don't know if
Okay,
we have it
so
up on
you
the
have
screen.
that. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So essentially, yes, we made these revisions in order to better fit the area. The homeowners also spoke with neighbors about this application. We did send in letters of support, and so far everybody seems to be on board. It's the homeowners' forever home, so they wanted to be respectful to and conscious to the neighbors, and I think they're welcoming him and his wife and kids there. So. Yeah, so far it's been a positive review from both planning and neighborhood. So we're happy to see that. And please let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zibzumi. Any questions or someone ready to weigh in with the motion?
Sorry, the applicant said there's letters of support. Is that correct? I don't see any, sorry.
I sent that in, and the application technician advised to mention that as was past the deadline, but she said she was still uploaded to the AIC. So I'm not sure if it's uploaded yet or not, but we did send in letters of support.
Are they by the adjoining neighbors?
Yes, one of them is on Edenbridge and another on North Drive.
So there's 2 letters of support?
2 letters of support, correct.
Thank you.
Okay, and planning is okay. So anyone ready to weigh in with the motion? Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion, but I noticed that with respect to variance 1, the reduced lot coverage, the numerical value of the new coverage is stated, but not the percentage. I know it's minimal, but, and I'm not particularly troubled by it. I think with rounding, it's probably still about 36%.
Can we get that up on the screen?
Yeah,
please?
It's due to rounding, correct. It's due to rounding.
Yes.
It's still, it's like 35.9 or something, I guess.
It's due to rounding, that's why.
The change is quite minimal, very minimal.
Exactly. Yeah. So on that basis, I'm willing to move approval. Find the variances requested meet the 4 tests. And my motion would be conditional on urban forestry condition 2.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Danny Bessimo seconds the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous approval.
No, I'm opposed.
Oh, you're
I
opposed.
don't believe the changes are of any significance.
Okay. So the matter passes 4-1 with Mr. Kamarick in dissent. Thank you, Mr. Zibzumi.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Committee members, with your indulgence, how about we take a short break of, let's say, 10 minutes. I think we have about 6 more applications left on the morning agenda. 7, sorry. But I think we should be good. So let's take a 10-minute break.
So we're coming back at 10, we're coming back at 11:10?
Sure. Why not?
11:10.
Okay, enjoy.
Okay.
was going to say something. But okay, we ready to go back on? Okay. Thank you for that indulgence. Next application is item number 11, 50 LEILA Jackson Terrace. We have a revised revision notice sheet highlighted in yellow showing revisions, which I think we have a number of applications coming up today with that. It's great because it shows that people are listening to community planning and making changes before things come to us. So we had 3 variances. We now have only 1 variance, being the area of the proposed rear second-story deck from 26 meters down to 17 meters. We have a cover letter. We have letter of support. We also have the planning report, which is saying notwithstanding the reduction to 17 meters, they would suggesting it be reduced to 10 meters. And on this application, we have the owner, Julio Ayala. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. Yes, the initial planning for the deck was
Yes, sir, we didn't hear any of that.
To our
Sir,
neighbors are.
Julio, we didn't hear any of
Yes,
that.
can you hear me?
You were cut off.
Can
So
you
can
hear
you
me?
please start over?
Oh,
Please start over. We didn't hear
okay.
any of
My
that.
name is Julio Ayala.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Julio Ayala at 50 LEILA Jackson Terrace. Yes, the original request was to have a deck in similar size to our neighbors. But since we talked to the planning officer, we decided to make it smaller. And even with the bigger size, the letter that my neighbor said from the north, the next door neighbor on the north, they agree. They said they have no issues with the bigger size. We, after talking to the planning officer, we decided to reduce the size and also move the increase the setback, so there's no issues with the privacy. So we believe that making those changes would increase our chances of getting the approval. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Okay, so just to summarize, it looks like the planning report is written July 19th, and at that point it was at 26 and the recommendation. So he was not looking at this after you made the change to 17 square meters. He was looking at it before you made any
Yes.
changes. It was still at 26, just so the committee members understand. And just to confirm, that is
Yes.
what happened, correct? This planning report is written when you were at 26 meters.
That's correct.
You've now
Yes.
reduced it to 17.
Yes.
Committee members, any questions for Mr. Ayala? Or is someone ready to bring a motion? And I'm not sure if there's any urban forestry on this. Does anyone have any questions for the owner?
Just a clarification for me. Your next door neighbor to the north, is their deck at the same height that you're proposing yours to be?
Same height? Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, it will be just either side, but it's just really very similar.
Sir,
Sorry, I can't hear.
please repeat what you just said. We lost you again. Please
Sorry,
respond.
I was
Repeat your
saying that
response to
the
Mr.
next door,
Kamarick. Go ahead.
yes, the question was about if the next door neighbor was the similar height, right?
Yes.
Yes, so yes, it is. It's just next door is very similar height. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Any other questions, panel members? Mr. Taylor.
I have a question.
Mr. Taylor?
I have a question based on,
Yeah, Mr. Taylor had a question as well. Let him go first, Ms.
Okay.
Alderson, and then we'll.
Just a comment that community planning was aware of the reduction of the fort size to 17 and still requested 10.
Oh, yes, I see that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
that's a nice segue to my question, which is if community planning is recommending further reduction, is the applicant able to do that? Are they interested in reducing it even further?
At this time, we would prefer to keep it down to 17 meters square because it will give us the space that we prefer. Given that we are a family of 4 people and we have a barbecue, so just to give us enough space to move around and be there, enjoying the outdoor. So we prefer this current size. And the neighbors is also bigger. So all the neighbors of the north are bigger than the one we are planning.
I'm prepared to move. I'm prepared to move a motion unless there's more questions.
Looks like everyone's asked questions. Go ahead, Mr. Kamarick.
Good. I believe the application is minor, meets the 4 tests. I would like to move approval. And as revised, with no conditions.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Ms. Alderson, all in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your
Thank you.
Enjoy your new
Thank you.
deck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 12 is 80 EILEEN Avenue. This is to legalize and maintain the existing detached garage. We have cover letters supporting materials and photographs from the applicant. We have a copy of an order to comply and 3 letters of support. Understand it's being rebuilt on the exact location of the existing concrete pad. And we have, the applicant makes reference to 4 similar approvals. Speaker on this is the owners, either William Batch or Lawrence Roca. I don't know who's speaking, but we have one speaker.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and members. It's Lawrence Roca speaking.
Okay, welcome.
Perfect.
So we have your supporting material and your photographs, the order to comply, and the support. Anything you'd like to advise the committee? I don't think we need a presentation. We can just see if committee members have any questions for you. There's no one.
Yep, we just really thank you for your time for today and your consideration. We did our best to provide as much information as we could, and as you can see, everything was built on the existing foundation. Nothing has been changed, and it's been deemed minor from all the steps that we've taken, speaking with planning and so forth. So we just really appreciate your time and consideration here.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Roca? And if not, is someone ready to make a motion? Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I find the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests, and I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 3.
Thank you. We have a second.
Andy Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. item number 13, 135 16th Street. This is an application. If we can get the application on the board, we have it's to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and we have, as in other applications, a revised notice sheet highlighted in yellow to indicate changes made to the original application. On this application, there were there were 7. There's now 4 variances, and 3 of those have been reduced. And planning is looking for a condition of approval. And in the supplemental materials, we have a letter from the neighbor at 133 16th Avenue with concerns.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I could just interrupt you for 1 second. Alice from 133 16th Street has actually been disconnected a few times, so she's not on the line right now, but she did email me and she would like to speak.
Okay, so hopefully she'll be able to call back, or we'll be able to get in touch with her. Yeah, we do have, and I believe that is the same neighbor that's written in the supplemental materials. So the speaker on this application, the agent David Igelman, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and fellow committee members.
Right. Could we get the revised application sheet up on the board showing the elimination of variances and reduction of the remaining variances? While you make your, I don't know if we need a full presentation, but why don't you give us some background on this?
No problem, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, this is an application for a 3-story dwelling, but functionally it is a 2-story dwelling. And just in regards to the revised plans, I would like to note that the revisions to the plans have been made as a result of extensive consultation with city planning staff. And as a result, we have submitted the revised set of plans and the zoning waiver, which reflect the changes to the proposed plans, which are within the committee's package. The consultation with city planning staff that has taken place is noted in their staff report dated July 20th, 2021. And I'm aware of planning staff's recommendation to impose a condition which the client deems to be acceptable should this application be approved today.
Okay.
I would also be happy. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say through you, Mr. Chair, that I would be happy to verbally go through the amended variances.
Okay, I don't believe that's necessary. Just want to point out that I guess the condition says that the proposed development be constructed substantially in accordance with the architectural plans held on file by the committee. Several months ago, that standard wording was revised to be built, construct as illustrated rather than substantially in accordance, because there's some subjectivity in that. I see we have some new assistant planners recently hired, and perhaps they were looking at a wrong precedent. So I'll just ask staff to Mr. Carvalino if perhaps that we should be considering changing that. Mr. Carvalino?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can you repeat?
I was saying that the suggested condition from community planning by the new assistant planner is that it be constructed substantially in accordance. And several months ago, that standard wording was changed for good reason to construct as illustrated, because the substantially in accordance was deemed to be somewhat subjective. So just a simple question as to whether committee members, in considering this condition, which the applicant has said his client finds acceptable, be changed accordingly to construct as illustrated.
If that's the committee's desire, absolutely. But we've been instructed to use the recommended conditions verbatim by community planning. So although there's new staff, it is reviewed by community planning managers. So
Okay.
What we get is vetted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry about that. So, Mr. Igelman, why don't we see if committee members have any questions? And if there are no questions, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself, so just one quick question. I'm assuming to the south, you're in compliance with the side yard setback because there's no variance being sought?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions, or is someone ready to make a motion?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to weigh in. Alice, the woman that wanted to speak on this application, says that her letter in opposition is self-explanatory.
Okay.
I'll, if no one else wants to pipe in, I will. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and is minor. I would like to therefore move for approval as amended, and tie that to the drawings of July 15th, 2021.
Okay, on the issue I brought up, you want to leave it as substantially, construct substantially, or construct as illustrated?
Well, I would say as per the drawings submitted and on file with the committee of July 15th, 2021.
Okay. You're still not answering my question whether it should be construct as illustrated or to be built in step substantially in accordance. I'm sorry to
I guess I went
about this, but
that's okay. I went with neither. I came up with a third one, but you know what? Let's go as illustrated.
I don't think you
I think it's if I may, I think it's the word substantially that you have an issue with. Substantially leaves room for some interpretation.
Leaves wiggle room.
It does leave wiggle room.
Yeah,
and I think
that's why several months ago, the substantially in accordance, which had been used for years, was changed to construct as illustrated. I don't know if city legal had weighed in on that, or maybe the building department said, please don't put us in that situation. But that was done several months ago, and it's been rather consistent. So Mr. Carvalino says we deal with what's before us. So
well, can we not just say as per the drawings submitted July 15th, 2021?
I respectfully think that wouldn't work. You need to say something more than as per. You have to say either substantially in accordance or construct as illustrated. So I would suggest you pick one of those two, please.
Let's do, let's then do as illustrated.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'm happy to second that motion. Yeah, provided it says constructed as illustrated, yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Mr. Bellissimo, you're in favor?
No, I'm against because I think substantial in accordance is critical. As an architect, I would die to get a motion like that. There are thousands of notes on those drawings, and once you tie them to all those notes, it's pretty tough. So I agree with planning. It should be substantially in accordance. I cannot approve that motion.
Okay, so the motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is item number 14, 24 Yorkview Terrace. Again, if we can get the plan up, we have very helpfully revised plans showing the highlighted changes that have been made. We're now proceeding by way of a waiver, however, given on those revised plans. We have the applicant's revisions and plans with the revisions of applicant's presentation, and planning looking for a condition of approval. In this case, to be constructed as illustrated by a different planner. So, and in the supplemental materials, we now have photos and stats and plans and precedents. Speaker on this is Stephen Lindy, the agent. Welcome, Mr. Lindy.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee.
Good morning.
My name is Stephen Lindy, architect and agent of the proposal. I am located at 48 Bedford Park Avenue in Toronto. Yes, we have seen the staff report from planning, and we have worked closely with planning to reduce the variances as follows. If you want to hear that list, or they're already shown on the attachment there.
Yes, I don't think we need to hear. We can see it on the screen.
So if I may go through my presentation, the supporting material with the pictures of, starts with houses in the area. Thank you. On page 1, the proposed is a 2-story house with attached garage and rear shed for a family, local family. On page 1 through 5, we see photos of the area and confirms the pattern of development in the area. I don't see, oh, there we go. Thank you. As we can see, many of the original bungalows are being replaced with larger 2-story homes. On page 2, top of the page, is an example of 0.65 FSI approved at committee, with 0.629 is our FSI as requested. On page 3, other houses in the neighborhood. Page 4, top of the page, is an example of 0.65 FSI and 39.16 coverage and 19.5 depth and length approved at committee. Page 4, bottom of the page, is an example of 0.65 FSI and 35.19% coverage approved at committee. On page 5, we have precedence research for FSI, lot coverage, length, and depth. So if we can focus in on page 5 very quickly, we have the spreadsheet where the numbers are shown. Yes, thank you. So there's 12 precedents for FSI, 22 for coverage, 7 for length, and 8 for depth, the number of times approved at committee. That's sort of highlighted with the dashed lines at the top of the page. We have found numerous precedences for the requested items, and the next page is page 6, the proposed site plan. Page 7 is a simplified site plan, and page 8 is the basement plan and explains that the variance for length and depth is caused only due to the basement area under the porch. Page 9, 10, and 11 are elevations, and page 9 is the front elevation, page 11 is the side elevation. The last page, page 11, shows the rear porch basement that causes the variance for length and depth. Thank you. So in summary, there have been no objections from neighbors to the proposal. We have worked closely with planning staff and made many modifications to the requested items. As a result, the proposed variances, we believe, meet the intent of the 4 tests of the committee, that the proposed variances are minor, they are desirable, and matches the existing pattern of development in the area. The proposed development maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindy. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Lindy? Or is someone prepared to weigh in with a motion? I don't see if there's any urban forestry on this. You can look at that. I just point out to member Lissimo that in this instance, the planner, Trista James, is requesting that the proposed development shall be constructed as illustrated on the architectural plans, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, to ensure the second floor length does not exceed 16.76 meters, does not extend above the covered rear porch. In this, we've also seen that in most cases, they give some example, as in this one, to say why we're attaching the plan, in this case, as it relates to ensure the second floor length does not exceed, and not just holus bolus for the entire application. And again, it says constructed as illustrated and not the now antiquated substantially in accordance. So we have several other applications this afternoon, I believe, that also refer to certain wording. So I ask committee members to perhaps consider that in their deliberations. So any questions?
Dan Bellissimo has a question of the applicant.
Yes.
The applicant is aware of the recommendations the chair just read out?
Yes, and I would like to just add that maybe the condition could be tied to the 3 drawings, being the site plan, the ground floor plan, and the basement plan, maybe so that the length is identified on those plans. If there's any minor modifications to the elevation or anything as the committee mentioned, then we don't have any plans to change those. But if they do come up and they're not exactly as illustrated, then that could create a problem. So if there was, I can list out those numbers if you like.
No, as a person who's asking the question right now, I just wanted you to answer the question. I didn't want any recommendation from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then yes, we're okay with those recommendations.
Mr. Lindy, I think it is actually relevant that instead of tying it to all the architectural plans, the movement seems to be now to identifying particular plans, and that's for the assistance city building officials dealing with this in the future, that they don't have to go through 20 pages of architectural plans, and they're directed to the proper ones. So Mr. Bellissimo, being our resident architect, or perhaps we've heard from Mr. Lindy, that these are the plans that we should be looking to, and we don't have to tie it to 20 pages of plans. And that's for the assistance of city planning, or sorry, the building officials when they're approving this application and making sure it's being built in accordance with the committee's recommendation. That's all I'll have to say. So is someone ready to make a motion?
I can do that. So I believe the application meets the 4 tests, and I would therefore like to move approval. Subject to forestry condition number 2. Also subject to it being tied to the architectural drawings with respect to site plan, ground floor, and basement submitted July 13th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Kamarick. We have a seconder for Mr. Kamarick's motion. Mr. Taylor, your hand up went up first. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Lindy.
Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good day.
You too.
Okay, our next application is item number 15, 15 Ashmore Avenue. Again, we have a revised sheet showing some changes to the initial application. If we could perhaps get that up on the board. It's an application constructed 2-story south side addition, which will include an attached garage, a 2-story rear addition, a 2nd-story addition over the existing dwelling, a new front porch, and a new rear deck. And we had 4 variances. We now have 3, and the main variance, the FSI, has been reduced from 0.56 from 0.6 to 0.58. Mr. Dome, Joe Dome is the speaker. And we have
yes.
Yeah, there is a planning report on this application as well, which I assume you've seen.
Yeah.
And perhaps you can deal with that in your, I guess it just basically recommended what you've already done, it appears.
That's right. Yeah, I can speak to that in a presentation if required.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Joe Dome, 1101 Steeles Avenue West, agent for the owner. I'd like to first point out the application, as we pointed out, has been revised in accordance with planning recommendations on file. And the updated plans are available on file along with the revised zoning notice. And what has changed is an increase in south side yard setback pertaining to the portion of the side wall that's not garage. And the side yard setback for the garage portion is 0.5 meters, while the remaining portion to the rear of the house is now set back to 1.34 meters, as shown on the revised site plan. This has also reduced the FSI from 0.6 to 0.58. And the second change was the variance regarding the eaves has been removed. So therefore, there are only now 2 requested variances under the new bylaw. That's FSI and side yard setback. And regarding the proposed FSI of 0.58, there is precedent. For example, if we jump over to the next street west, in 2017, 23 Chartwell Road was approved for a 0.65 FSI. I'd like to highlight that while asking for FSI, the proposal is nearly 3% under the 33% allowed lot coverage, and thus has no lot coverage variance. We do feel that the revised application is reasonable, minor in nature, and meets the 4 tests. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dome. Any questions for Mr. Dome, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I believe Don, go ahead. You're up.
I just have a question. You stated that you now only have 2 variances. I still see 3. Can you help me?
Sorry, 2 variances under the new bylaw.
You're asking for 3 minor variances from this committee, correct? 1, 2,
Yes.
and 4? Yes, thank you.
That's right.
Mr. Kamarick, you also had a question?
Yeah, my question pertains to, I wanted to know the date of the revised site plan. And is that part of our package here? Because I don't see it in the added materials. Is it as per the original materials?
It's posted on file here, posted July 19th, listed as revised plans.
Okay, that's what I just wanted. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and the date, do you want to know the date on the plans?
I believe it's 19th, 2021, isn't it?
Well, that was the date it was posted, but the date on the plans, the revised plans is July 12th, 2021.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. On that basis, I'd like to propose a motion for approval. I believe it meets the 4 test. Reason I'm trying to clarify this is because I do want to say that the approval is as revised and as per the revised site plan submitted or received July 19th, 2021. Would you be okay? Are we okay with that?
Mr. Dome? Mr.
Yes.
Eric's asking you a question. I believe.
Yes, I would be okay with that.
Perfect. Then I'll let that motion stand.
Okay, we have a second for Mr. Kamarick's motion.
Danny Benissimo seconds the motion.
All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Dome. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next application is item number 16. 15 Meaford. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with a parking pad and shed in the rear yard. There is 1 variance, the FSI. And we have revised plans, with no changes to the variance as a result. We have the Long Branch Character Guideline Checklist, and we have 1 letter of opposition. Planning has advised they have no concerns as the Long Branch Character Guidelines Checklist has been submitted. Okay. Yeah, the plan, and we have there's no one speaking here in opposition, but we do have the letter. They were apparently opposed to the orientation of the home and impact on privacy and safety due to the inclusion of a side door. The speaker on this is Mark Lilly, the agent. We also have the agents, the owners, it looks like, on the line as well. Welcome.
Good morning. This is Mark Lilly speaking. I'm the agent for the owner.
Okay.
Would you like a presentation on the project?
Committee members, would you like a presentation? No one has their hand up. So let's.
I just have questions.
Go ahead, Mr.
I have a question also.
Okay, let's do it that way. Mr. Kamarick first.
Okay, my question pertains to the structure in the back, which appears, in my view, to be a 2-story structure. Kind of reminds me of a 2-story garage, which we tend to oppose. If you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, the garage is definitely a 1-story structure. I know there's windows above the doors at the front, but those are just transoms. From an interior point of view, it's just 2 rooms. There's no loft or anything like that above.
Okay, but in terms of height, it approaches 2 stories, at least on.
Yeah, it's 3.98 meters, so it would really be more like a story and a half, if anything.
Story and a half.
Yeah, but it's definitely there's no loft space or beams across the top. It's literally 1 space. So.
Okay.
And it should just also note, it wasn't mentioned at the beginning, but we also had 9 letters of support for the project.
Do we have that?
I just have a quick question.
Sorry, just wait. Have you seen letters of support, staff? Did I miss something?
They should be on the file there.
It's not
Michael, they're in the added supported material.
Oh, they are?
Mhm.
Okay. I guess I missed it. In any event, whether or not we have, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I just want to have a quick question, Michael.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is this: the neighbor who sent in a letter of opposition, she actually has an issue with the configuration of the doorway, and I must admit it was a good question. Why put the doorway on the opposite side to the driveway?
So the
I
reason,
just wonder if you can answer that.
yeah, sure. So the reason for the orientation on the house is that we are trying to take advantage of the west light as much as possible. And if you look at the ground floor plan, you'll see that most of the living spaces are all orientated towards the west. And therefore the entry, the mudroom, the stairs, the powder room, those rooms are all on the east side. And we have a staircase that goes up through the building. And it made sense to put the doorway on that side where the staircase and landing come to grade. And it should be noted that the front door is the main access, obviously, and the rear door or the patio door would be the secondary access. This third door on the side would really be, an entry that would be used very little. It's really just going to be the front and back that are going to be used.
Laura, for what it's worth, my house is set up the same way.
Okay.
And Ms. Alderson, I want to thank you for speaking on behalf of the opposition letter, because often when the speaker isn't here to reiterate what they've said in their letter, it really doesn't get dealt with often. So
Yeah.
Kudos to you to bring that up and at least get an explanation.
Denny Bellismo is ready to make a motion if there are no further questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I find a side entrance is not an issue. There are thousands of homes that I've dealt with in Etobicoke that have side entrances similar to this. It's just typical. So I would like to move approve of finding variances of minor nature conditional in forestry.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Mr. Kamara?
I'd like to second that with with what I hope will be a friendly amendment. And my amendment is that the ancillary structure is not to be used as habitable space.
You have no problem with that?
Okay.
I have no problem with that. I mean, that's basically natural light coming in. There's no way that anybody can live in that little space. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the friendly amendment. We have the motion. Seconder, all in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lilly.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Okay, our last application of the morning session is item number 1765 Kingsway Crescent. It's an application to construct a partial second-story north side addition to the existing ancillary structure, coach house. Nice segue from the last application. We have before us covering letter, signposting, planning email advising that they have no concerns, and the TRCA has no objection, but note that a permit is still required prior to the issuance of a building permit. Speaker on this is Nadine Rajani, the agent for the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of committee. My name is Nadine Rajani. I'm with Drawing Room Architect, and we are the agent for the owners at 65 Kingsway Crescent.
Okay. Community panel members, would you like a presentation on this application? Ms. Alderson shaking her head in the negative. Does anyone have any questions then in lieu of a presentation? And if no questions, Ms. Rajani, would you like to add anything before we take it into committee for a decision?
Mr. Chair, we believe that the variances requested are very minor in nature and in keeping with the 4 tests. So we have no further comments to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, some ready to weigh in with the motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion if no one has any questions. I believe this application meets the 4 tests and is minor in nature and also desirable, and I move to approve.
Thank
with
you.
no conditions.
Thanks.
Anybody else seconds the motion?
Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Ms.
Thank you very
Rapani.
much.
And
Thank you.
okay, we stand adjourned until we recommence at 1 o'clock, the 1 p.m. agenda. Have a nice lunch, everyone.